So it seems like anybody and everybody is trying to get into the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. We've seen everybody from Toronto, Miami, Phoenix, and the newest team name is the Boston Celtics. And the newest Twitter trade package that has been concocted is Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Derek White, and I believe draft picks for Kevin Durant. Now, I just want to reconfirm my stance on Kevin Durant as an NBA player. Easily, not only could be considered one of the greatest scoring wings of all time, could be and should be probably the best wing scorer in NBA history. He's going to crack the 27,000 point club this year. He's going to be a guy who at the end of this season, and possibly by the end of his career actually, is considered the greatest scorer of all time. Something that I like to talk about, and something that I don't know if there's a stat behind it. I just don't know. But something that I love to talk about is a player's ability to be unstoppable for certain moments in the game. And Kevin Durant, more than almost anybody in NBA history with his scoring, has proved that with his jump shot, with his size, with his length, he is one of the most unstoppable players in NBA history when he has it going and when he's on fire. So I guess I should say I'm not surprised that teams are lining up, even good teams who were in the finals last year are lining up to try to trade for Kevin Durant. But it would really surprise me if the Boston Celtics did end up making this move, because this is something I've been on for a while. If you think Kevin Durant as an asset is as valuable as he was 5 years ago, you're crazy. And not only are you crazy for thinking that, if you are thinking at this point, after everything we saw this year with Golden State win a championship, their first real year without Kevin Durant and with a fully healthy team, if you are still of the mindset that Kevin Durant is the championship missing piece for your franchise, look, you're crazy. With everything that happened in the last 3 years, compare what Golden State had gone through to what Brooklyn has gone through in the last 3 years. Brooklyn has completely shedded every single valuable asset on their roster because Kevin Durant said so. Brooklyn completely changed their head coach because Kevin Durant said so. And all while Brooklyn has been the most disastrous franchise in the NBA over the last 3 seasons, the Golden State have another title. The Golden State Warriors have another title. The Golden State Warriors are back in the pantheon of great teams in NBA history. And if you ask me, and I understand that I am not in the majority with this thinking, they fielded a better team this year than any year they had Kevin Durant. So let's just talk about this from a Boston perspective. So let's just think about it like this, okay? If you're the Boston Celtics, you trade away Marcus Smart, you trade away Jaylen Brown, you trade away Derek White, and you trade away draft picks for one guy in Kevin Durant. What are you left with if you're the Boston Celtics defensively? Because not only is Marcus Smart the defensive player of the year, he sets the tone for the entire roster. And even though I don't think he's the best defensive player in the NBA, I think the award that he was given was deserved. I think the value of having a guy at $16.5 million who not only is your point guard who can get the job done at an above average rate, considering the fact that he has 2 all-star wings that he can just pass the ball off to at any moment. Marcus Smart at $16.5 million is the leader of this franchise. And you trade that away alongside Jaylen Brown, who is a all-star wing, like I said, has the potential to be one of the better, if not one of the best, defensive-minded three-point shooters we have in the NBA. If he can ever develop the off-the-ball ability of other elite wings, and if he can ever develop some sort of ability to handle the ball, Jaylen Brown is going to be an all-NBA player. So you trade that away, a guy who's 25 in Jaylen Brown, a guy who's 26, 27 in Marcus Smart, and a really good role player at $16 million in Derek White for one guy in Kevin Durant. if you bring him to this roster, you're going to have to ask him to defend. And I'm not saying that Kevin Durant is a bad defender, but you have to ask him to defend 70 or 82 games a year. Throw in the fact that he's going to be the number one option on the offensive side of the ball, which is going to limit Jason Tatum's potential and where he's gotten to as an NBA player right now. It's not a good move. It's really not. And I hate just like shitting on this, because I think some people actually look at this and they think, wow, that's a really good idea. Boston should really look into this. They shouldn't, man. Like, if you trade Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Derek White for Kevin Durant right now, you're making your team worse. Not only on the basketball court are you making your team worse defensively, you're making the mindset of your team worse. This is a move that we've seen made many times, not only in NBA history, but in NFL history. And look, Kevin Durant is very old. I'm not betting that Kevin Durant is going to get any better than he is right now, and I'm not betting that he's going to be the same guy that he was even last year. Look at the history of all of those guys who I was mentioning earlier are part of that 27,000 point club. Look at anybody in NBA history who is an elite scorer. Once they get to that age 34 season, like Kevin Durant just went through this year, the scoring production not only goes down, it drops dramatically. The only guys that has not happened to are Kareem, Karl Malone, and LeBron James. 3 guys who have not had multiple major lower leg injuries in their career. So if you're looking at it from a Kevin Durant perspective, bringing him to Boston, what are you relying on that you can actually consistently call the reason that they would win the championship next year? Because, look, I think they already made their next championship move by getting Malcolm Brogdon. I think the fact that they did not have a second guy outside of Jason Tatum to give the ball to and let make plays, I still don't think Malcolm Brogdon is the essential piece that they needed, but I think you make that move in the hopes that if everything works out perfectly with Malcolm Brogdon on this team, that's the move that wins us the championship next year. Just based off what they were weak in last year, scoring wasn't their weakness. Being able to shoot wasn't this team's weakness. The three-point line wasn't this team's weakness. The real only weakness for this team last year was the fact that they had nobody outside of Jason Tatum who could handle the ball. And with Kevin Durant having the most turnovers I think he's ever had in a playoff series last year, and he looked kind of below average for Kevin Durant standards in the series against Boston this year, there just is no reason to make that move if you're the Boston Celtics.